Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run services at medcoms and networking.com. Information, resources, activities for people who work across the world in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and the associated businesses. So you'll find lots of information at medcomsnetworking.com and the associated websites, including a quick shout out to those of you looking to join the business, maybe as a medical writer or account manager. Go and have a look at first medcomsjob.com. Lots of information for you. And over at NetworkPharma TV, we've got hundreds of videos now, lots and lots of video content, many of which have been generated by webinars like this. So go and have a look if you've not looked before. Today's webinar, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Most of you are coming in from the States. I know it's a little bit early there, so thank you very much for joining us. We're talking about AI and the use of AI within publications, medical affairs, and so on, particularly thinking in terms of things like literature reviews and so on. I'm going to leave it to you. We're going to talk through a presentation, but open up then for conversation with the audience. So please, members of the audience, and it's great to see so many of you from around the world. Please get ready with your questions and comments and observations. But to kick off, I'm going to hand over to Steve. There you go, Steve.
Thanks, Peter. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Steve Dawber. I've been working in pharma and medcoms for just over 30 years. Started as a medical rep and progressed into medical PR, healthcare journalism, freelance medical writing consultancy, and then director level agency roles in operations, scientific strategy, and scientific services. So delighted to meet you all. Over to Kevin.
My apologies there. I'm Kevin Kallmes. I'm the CEO and founder of Nested Knowledge, a technology company dedicated to systematic review software, including AI assistance in the gathering process, as well as living interactive outputs. And I'll throw it to Keith, my brother and co-founder.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin's brother and co-founder. I focus mostly on the sales and client side, so supporting our clients as they work with their pharma clients in medcoms and HEOR primarily. I'll throw it to Evelyn.
Thanks, Keith. My name is Evelyn Rizzo. My background is clinical in rehabilitation science, and my passion is in evidence development. It's so hard getting things covered for patients here in the United States that I got a health economics degree to get it sorted. And I've been working in HEOR work, developing evidence packages for new technologies ever since. Happy to be here. Over to Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Hartley. I'm the head of publications at Sage Therapeutics. We're a brain health company. We have an asset on the market for postpartum depression. My background is actually cancer immunology. So now I'm in the brain health space. It's pretty amazing. But I also want everyone to understand that I have been on the agency side. I have been in pharma, and I've also been a freelancer. So I hope I can relate to many of the people in the audience and how we might use this excellent technology to help us in any of those roles. So back to Steve.
Have the next slide, please, Kevin. So I'm just going to give a bit of background, really, why we're here today. So thank you for attending today's webinar. Thank you, Peter, for hosting it and giving us the opportunity to discuss this sort of vital and timely topic. It's probably fair to say that the emergence of generative AI represents the most disruptive, but also the most exciting medcoms innovation in the last few decades. It's a true paradigm shift in the way we strategize and deliver many of our outputs. So the question is, how do we embrace this shift and safeguard the continued success of our industry and our own roles within it? What should we be doing now to stay in the game, or preferably get ahead of the game? Well, a simple way of looking at it is to break down the stages of adoption needed to reach AI excellence. So the holy grail for all of us, if you like. So where are we and where are our organizations on this chart? So starting from the bottom, the first sort of crucial step is to recognize that AI is here to stay, that it can bring many potential benefits, particularly in terms of efficiencies of cost and time. Yes, it will be disruptive, but that doesn't mean it should be feared. We need to embrace it and work out our own place within it. AI won't replace us, but someone who uses AI better than us most probably will. Our challenge now is to work out where those AI benefits best lie. And that brings us to the second stage of adoption, the experimentation stage. So it's running pilot projects. It's working out where AI provides the most value. It's assessing the main factors we need to consider when implementing AI and deducing where the current gaps may be. Many of you will also have seen positioning statements from from ISMAP and the HCA, and they both acknowledge that generative AI is a vital medcoms cog now, that we should all embrace right now. Waiting isn't the answer. That's a key message in that guideline. And they've set out best practice principles and guidance on how best to use AI. So critical success factors, if you like, for individuals and companies when conducting AI experimentation. I mean, there are many AI pilot programs that are happening now. For example, those of us who attended the ISMAP U webinar on MedComms Day will have heard how AstraZeneca are using a generative AI model to develop their PLSs. And that following the successful pilot program, they're now planning to reach the third step in AI excellence by scaling up their AI operations to include infographics, manuscripts, and other PLS formats, with a view to including AI use in their developmental SOPs for those deliverables. And once that's successfully achieved, the fourth and final stage of AI adoption is AI excellence. That's what we reach. But what's also going to be crucial here is where human intervention takes place. The true cases of AI excellence will involve what's been termed as augmented intelligence, where we and AI work in synergistic harmony. AI provides the logistical efficiency, and humans provide the overall strategic thinking as to why we're doing what we're doing and what the results actually mean. So in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Kevin, who's going to demonstrate the Nested Knowledge platform. And this is an AI-driven living evidence base that can help us achieve the AI efficiencies we need to aspire towards. And he's going to use the example of how to develop an AI-driven SCP. We're then going to hear from Evelyn, who's going to explain the value of a living evidence platform in the HEOR field and why it's vital there. And last, but certainly not least, we're going to hear from Amanda, who is going to explain how she's using a living evidence platform within a role at Sage in several internal knowledge sharing initiatives. So with all that in mind, I'll hand over to Kevin.
Thank you so much, Steve. And as outlined, I think that the importance of AI in this industry is going to be both about recognizing its potential for saving us time, helping us find the evidence that we need, but also recognizing with humility about where this AI stands as of now and what is needed in terms of human and AI interaction. And so I'm going to go through very quickly a description of how we use nested knowledge in scientific communications platforms and related evidence synthesis projects. And then I'm going to, of course, show it to you directly in the software. Before we jump in to actually showing how this works, I do want to describe at the highest level how we integrate integrate AI into nested knowledge. And the first tool that we built out in the process matches effectively the first step in a systematic review that would underlie a scientific communication platform or other related deliverable. This is mapping out your PICOs. So when you are creating your searches, we have an AI assistant that can pull the underlying abstracts from a preliminary search and then give you the populations, the interventions, comparators, and outcomes that you may want to use to augment your search. That human interaction portion is effectively AI recommendation with human confirmation, and you'll see that paradigm throughout nested knowledge. This includes in the second stage of your review where you would likely want to use an AI to help you screen. So if you screen more than 50 studies, the AI can learn from every decision that you make and then be employed as at least one decision in a dual screening workflow where, again, the AI is giving a suggestion of which studies to bring in, and there's human confirmation. We also have tools where you can automatically pull underlying citation information to ensure that you're actually mapping your own evidence to that which is at least that which is published up to the most recent systematic review or most recent articles of interest where they may have citations that you want to augment your search with. And then I will say that the one that we find to be the most important time saver, the most important collaborator in the evidence gathering process, and then also I think the most advanced use of AI in nested knowledge's systematic reviews platform is using large language models for full text extraction. So pulling in a full text of an underlying study and then using a GPT-4 integration to identify any custom concept that you've built into your review and then are seeking in the underlying studies. This is all with the understanding and the background that all review processes, including the evidence generation that underlies SCPs, is effectively, without AI, is effectively an easy to, is a difficult process to complete and then an easy process to let fall out of date. So not only do we need to have AI assistance with completing the reviews in the first place, but we also need to make sure that we have the ability to create and then keep up to date any key question and any key review topic that we need to. The way that we see this being used is, I should jump to my demo. The way we see this being used is not only to build out your scientific communication platform in the first place, but also to present it. You can see here a scientific communication platform that Keith and I have built in the area of basilar artery stroke. We are well published in the literature surrounding both stroke epidemiology and then, of course, stroke treatment. And here you can see one of our interactive dashboards from a project completed in Nested Knowledge, where we can map out our lexicon or the key terms that we may want to extract from the underlying literature, our core statements, key findings from the underlying literature, and of course, we can also drill down interactively on any of the concepts that we've built out in our custom ontology or hierarchy of questions. And so here you can see the relatively straightforward questions we had around the population of interest, their demographics. In stroke, timing of treatment is extremely important. So one of our key supporting statements related to the timing of treatment. And if we wanted to drill down on studies that actually report timing of treatment for, say, endovascular therapy, which has become the standard of care in stroke, we can filter to those concepts and we get a list of all studies that report on a given set of topics. And then if we click in, we can get an AI highlighted abstract, pulling out those PICOs, exactly as described before. And then also we can see the AI assisted or AI extracted tags that were pulled from the underlying study to represent each of our key questions. Just to give a brief jump into how this was gathered, we began from a search. This search can be as simple as the terms stroke and related outcomes or population characteristics. And then we have RoboPico, which can map out the population, the intervention or comparator terms, and outcomes that we may want to augment our search with. So if I want to use this to add new search terms, I can, of course, say, I think I need to add recanalization as an outcome or intracranial hemorrhage. And all I need to do is, of course, add this, layer it onto my search. It will pull in the mesh hierarchy for any term that is within mesh. And then I can move forward directly to creating a living search on PubMed, on clinicaltrials.gov, or on related databases. This can be set to a daily or a weekly or a quarterly update cycle, which then allows me to pull in literature automatically, screen it with AI assistance, where not only is the AI providing decisions to me, but it is also giving me both a map of the probability of inclusion across all studies. You can see that the AI has a relatively low likelihood of this study coming in. But on top of that, also gives me accuracy statistics that help me understand how likely is the AI going to match with my own screening practices in my review process. But as noted earlier, I think that the most important AI tool that helps you get from, again, your search parameters and the studies of interest all the way down to the concepts you want to extract is building out either fully customized hierarchies or basing those hierarchies off of templates. So if I wanted to create an AI assisted PICOS template, I can pull this in. I can customize it then to my specific endpoints, to my specific interventions and population characteristics of interest. And then as soon as I've built this out, I can run a large language model that will then extract these concepts from underlying studies, such that, for instance, if I want to know what type of study this is, you can see the AI has called this out as a randomized controlled trial. If I want to know what therapy was used, you can see that it has highlighted endovascular therapy as one of the key therapies reported and standard medical therapy as the other. And of course, I can also see outcomes of interest such as modified Rankin scale score. I think this should give you a map from not only the concepts that you're coming in on and the screening process and the key extraction steps, but also, of course, bring you all the way back around to those deliverables. Each one of those tag statements that we showed on synthesis comes directly from those AI recommendations with human confirmation. Keith, please pipe up if you think I've missed anything on the SCP example, and before I hand it over to Evelyn.
Biggest thing I would add is how much we prioritize shareability. A lot of journals have actually published living projects from Nested Knowledge and embedded the Nested Knowledge visuals on the journal website sort of as supplementary material. So don't think of this as like just a Nested Knowledge application. This is something you can share with one of your pharma clients. This is something you can share with one of your colleagues who isn't familiar with Nested Knowledge. This is something you can publish and then have all these dashboards as part of a living publication. Or I would say my favorite use I've ever seen is posters. We have people go into conferences with a physical poster, and then they make this their digital poster, and they have one of those little QR codes, and they can pull up a living version of that digital poster. So you're not trapped in the software. You always have the ability to share it, even with people who've never heard of Nested Knowledge. Anyway, Evelyn.
Thanks, Keith. And Kevin.
Let me get you back into your presentation, and you're off.
Thank you. So I've been using AI as part of my workflow for almost 3 years now. I've used it for both or for small medtech companies, little startups, and for large pharma companies. And they all have similar requirements. They want to know, what's the evidence for either their molecule or the therapeutic area that they're looking to either expand into. So I write SLRs for these types of projects. For economic models, we need inputs for these models, and identifying the gaps for different countries, if we're going to look for different countries and their HTA submissions. And there's many use cases for SLRs in the HEOR space. So for the small medtech companies, a lot of times they have very small budgets, and I can use these Nested Knowledge platform. If they have a very short budget, short hours, within 15 hours, I can come up with at least a small assessment of where they might sit within the healthcare space, so that they can help guide in the design of their clinical trials. And it just really helps using the AI to fit within their budgets. And then as they get more funding, Series A, B funding, they can then, apply their earnings towards a more robust systematic literature review that could be published. And that just helps with the tiers of evidence as they move forward in their space. For smaller medtech companies that I work with, a lot of their HEOR work, it's early for me, sorry, is, they're looking at stakeholders within the healthcare space. So for wound care, for example, maybe they're targeting hospitals for this particular project. I can set up a review of wound care within the Nested Knowledge platform, and then maybe they want to target burn centers. I duplicate that search within the Nested Knowledge platform, and then I can add more tags, add more literature that's burn care specific, and now I have a new targeted search with only doing about 25% more work, and we can make another publication that is targeted towards that stakeholder. And that work can be built upon as they change their focus, and it really saves a lot of time and money when it comes to these scientific budgets. And then finally, I'll go to the next slide, Kevin, if you don't mind. And finally, for the larger pharmaceutical companies, they're very spread out when it comes to their teams. Maybe they have, a dozen therapeutic areas that they're focused on. So these teams all have their own specialties, their own evidence. And this particular project is how I ended up starting to work with the Nested Knowledge team. We originally got the Nested Knowledge platform just for SLR. So we were just going to use it as one of our tools. And then as we played around with this and we listened to some of our clients, this was one of their complaints, is that we have all these different teams. They have these spreadsheets, they have files full of PDFs. And then if somebody wants to start a new project, they start from scratch. But we have all this separated evidence and we need to bring it all together. So how can we do that? And, after some brainstorming, we, this end from a lot of modification, thanks to the Nested Knowledge team. They were very responsive to our feedback on how we could best utilize this platform. We were able to create a living evidence library that, it was molecule specific or therapeutic specific, so that these teams spread out all over the world could go to these nests and download the evidence and not start from scratch. So this saves hundreds of hours and a lot of work on these pharmaceutical teams. It combines, regulatory affairs, med affairs. It allows these teams to get what they want. If it's just, the sales rep and they just want to look at, they're in front of a doctor, they could go there, look at the safety signals on a particular drug by just clicking in, and they have that dashboard, that information up to date on a quarterly, or usually quarterly, maybe it's every 6 months basis, depending on the client. So that is a very valuable tool and a use case that I've experienced within the Nested Knowledge platform. So, and even if the client said, oh, if only we could, download from here. Yeah, I take these comments to the Kevin or Keith, and they've been able to, modify the platform for us. So it's been a really great tool for that purpose. So thank you, Kevin. For health technology assessments, the future is living evidence for HTAs. We need to update these depending on the country, every 2 years, every 5 years. If there's a new clinical trial data, if it becomes available, you might need to update your HTA. And if we have these in these types of platforms, we can easily pull that information in and adjust the HTA. So it's current, it's fresh, it has the evidence we need. That includes, maybe there's a new comparator available, maybe there's a change in the cost. These are so easily put in so that it's constantly updated. If there's a shift in the regulatory status, these are also reasons why you might want to update. And, if you have to start from scratch, you're talking about a very lengthy and time-consuming process. So we have the new data, we have the new comparators. It captures the evolving landscape of evidence. And a lot of these health technology assessments have different requirements. We can have the SLR for clinical data. We can have the critical appraisal of the randomized control trials, SLR of utility data, the epidemiological data. They can all be housed within this platform and shared among the teams that all need to be part of the HTA development. So it is the future. I don't think there's I think that everybody will be doing it because people want to save time and money, and it's just an alignment with many goals for all these pharmaceutical companies. So that's in summary, we need these evidence-based insights to support healthcare decision making, and in that in turn is going to support patients getting access to these new drugs, these new technologies, these new medical devices. And that's why I'm passionate about it. Coming from a clinical background, having the evidence available as soon as possible, I see how that impacts the patients. I'm not just someone that sits here and writes papers. I'm really passionate about how patients can get these technologies, and the sooner we have the evidence, the better. So, we can embrace these AI technologies to do that very thing. And I think that's a fantastic way of the future. I'm going to pass it over to Amanda.
Perfect.
Thank you, Evelyn. So I have a question to start my presentation. Have you ever had a medical communications task to do that's a heavy lift and it doesn't require intense intellectual effort, but it's going to take a significant amount of time and you just couldn't figure out how to fit that into your schedule? So you can drop an answer in the chat if you have one. I can think of one is, as a freelancer, I had to do the background literature search when I was developing a publication. I might not have even had expertise in the therapeutic area, so I had to come up to speed quickly. So that's one example of a heavy lift in MedComms. Well, I have good news for you. This is where AI fits into your workload, and where it fits in on my team. So I'll give you a little background before we get into the details of this slide, but my team develops all the publications for Sage Therapeutics. And as I said at the start, we're a brain health company. We have 2 assets on the market right now for postpartum depression. My team supports the medical, HEOR, translational medicine, and sometimes even preclinical publications. And I'm lucky to have a brilliant team of scientists, and they have superpowers for developing incredible, extraordinary publications with the content that helps our healthcare professionals understand how to treat our patients, which, as Evelyn said, is really the whole point of all of this, right? But our team is also tasked with what I call ancillary jobs, like scientific communication platforms or landscape analyses or lit search newsletters or identifying externally developed publications on our assets that we weren't aware about, or Congress recaps or other things. And so while AI can and does do a great job at helping with publication development, and while we on my team are exploring that use further, including for plain language summaries, we do use nested knowledge for these systematic literature review articles and backgrounding, but our focus at Sage has been on harnessing the power of AI to generate those ancillary outputs I was talking about. And that way my team can focus on the intellectual tasks of refining the content in our publications, on problem solving, and getting the messages out there that we need into the public domain. So we found nested knowledge because Sage was looking for a way to support our HEOR team with their systematic literature reviews with all of the tasks that Evelyn just described. And I attended a pitch, or maybe it was even a demo, I'm not sure, for nested knowledge, but my brain started going, oh my word, this can be used for so many things in my team in publications. And so we started to envision other ways of using their software. I can say a lot of great things about nested knowledge, but probably the most impactful thing is that they made AI less scary for me. So I'm sure the people in the audience, some of you are really familiar with AI. Maybe some of you are just coming in to learn about it. I was at the ISMAP annual meeting in the US recently, and there was certainly a wide range of understanding of AI and comfort with it. So I was at the point when I met Nested Knowledge where AI was kind of scary. And I have to say that Keith and Kevin, they made it so that it was easy to understand. And when I had questions, they answered them. They were patient in their training. And in fact, they have multiple training videos on their website. So even when we couldn't reach them, my team could get on the website and try to at least get up to speed enough to ask a more intelligent question of them if we needed to. And so they've also been supportive of us in creating bespoke projects that reflect our specific needs. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. So let's look at the workflow that my team now uses to use the Nested Knowledge software to create our monthly lit search newsletters. So these are documents that before were such a heavy lift. We were going to PubMed, we were searching the literature, we were pulling together a list. And so like for postpartum depression, that list could be really long. Then we were taking that list to our medical directors. Which ones of these do you think are most impactful and important to share with other people at the company? And then we were writing synopses of each one. So my goodness, it was a ton of time. So now with Nested Knowledge, these are the steps we take. We create what they call a nest, which is really a Boolean search of PubMed. And we create a template, and that template has tags of the things we are interested in seeing. So the tag could be the name of our asset, or it could be randomized clinical trial, or it could be something else that we want to pull out of the literature. And then using the abstract content from publications, or we use the full content, to be honest, we then screen with the software using AI Assist for the publications that meet those important tags, the tags that are important to us. And then we tag with the AI Assist. So that's also, and we're refining that process over time as the AI gets more comfortable in doing that work for us. It gets easier and easier, and we identify fewer and fewer publications that don't meet our search criteria. Then we create a dashboard. You saw Kevin pull up one of those and show us what it looks like. And we distribute a link to everyone at our company, except for the sales team, our commercial people. And then they can go into the dashboard and see this newsletter, which I'll show you in a second. And then all we do every month is lather, rinse, and repeat. We just use that same template, but with excluding the previous publications and the next month's publication. So you can go to the next slide. So this is a screenshot of what our newsletter currently looks like. And of course, me and my team and Keith, we have ideas on how we can even refine this further, but we're super excited about how it is now. So you can see we have some marketing on there. We call it our Pulse on Pubs, and this one's for disease state, postpartum depression. Medical and Value Partnership is the name of our team. So we actually are combined medical affairs and HEOR at Sage. But we create a card at the top that has the 10 most important publications to us. And then below that, there's these cards that you can see that represent each publication. And you can see where it's tagged with the highlights for the most important information that we felt we should tag for our users. And they can click on different parts within that card and get more information. So it's interactive. And you can go to the next slide. So another part of our dashboard that's interactive is this sunburst. And these are our tags, right? And then there's little sub-child tags under there. So if somebody's most interested in seeing the population that was in those publications, they can click on population, they'll see a list, and then they can click on the list and get further information about the publication. I've got to tell you, we have had incredible reception to this, but no one really read our previous newsletter, but now people like it because it's interactive and fun to use. All right, you can go to the next slide. So this is another output that we've used. It's really a similar process to what I was talking about for the Lit Search newsletter, but part of my team's role is to look for externally developed publications that may have inaccurate information or inflammatory information, and then we escalate those publications to our leadership for consideration of whether we should have a rebuttal to it. So daily, we use our nested knowledge searches to try to find those publications, and it gives us a sense of security knowing that the AI is helping us to look for all those tags. Otherwise, we're just kind of looking for a couple of things. So this has been a great use case. And you can go to the next slide. We are currently in the process of working on this, but we would like to use nested knowledge to help us with Congress recaps. So I don't know if anyone has ever worked on these before, but you send your MSLs to a Congress, and everyone's supposed to go to a certain talk or look at a poster, and you write a recap, and then somebody's got to put all that together manually. Well, we're going to try to use nested knowledge to build out a tagging hierarchy for the Congress abstracts. And that way we can create a dashboard of those, and we can, the MSLs can access that dashboard, easily see the abstracts, and then we can make bespoke content if we want to accompany that. But it's going to streamline the way that we create these. So I'm really excited about that next output. I think you can go to the next slide. So yeah, so here we are at the Q&A. I just want to say I can only imagine. I mean, there can be many applications of this software, and there are also many other people that provide this service. But as I said before, nested knowledge is going to help you if you have a little bit of knowledge of AI or a lot, to help to meet the needs of what you're trying to do with that AI. So thank you very much for your attention, and we've reached the Q&A, so I'll turn it back to Pierre.
Brilliant, thanks guys. If we can lose the slides, yeah. I think, and I would encourage the audience to ask questions and share their thoughts, and we've got some comments coming in. Just give me and we haven't got that long, I know, but just give me a sense. Is this going to sound like a stupid question? So for most of us, AI hit the radar screen 18 months ago, yeah? And now we use the AI term to cover all sorts of stuff, yeah. And discussions like this can be a little bit complicated by the fact we're not quite sure what we're talking about, yeah. My basic question is, I'm just curious, what was Nested Knowledge doing? You know, it started about 5 years ago. I just want to get a sense of what you were doing and whether you were already involved with this AI stuff or whether you developed into using it as AI. Do you see what I'm saying? Can just give us I know
Absolutely.
people can Google
Yeah.
it, so not too much, but just give us a little bit of a sense, all right?
No, this is a great question. And when we actually proposed Nested Knowledge originally, I think that our central value proposition was those living, shareable, and collaborative parts of the software, where
Right.
it's about getting a team together to both create the review and those living outputs, but then also share it across your entire group, so you can have everyone from your clinical team through to pharmacovigilance can access the same evidence. But we actually began building AIs quite early. In 2019, we started building the robot screener AI. That is something that we created and we put out there. It's a machine learning algorithm. Obviously, that technology has been around for a lot longer than large language models, but that is very much based on sort of that human interaction piece where you put in your decisions, it trains the AI, and the AI gives constant feedback. But we always had this sort of holy grail of extraction, right? Having a full text with 3,500 words and a bunch of figures and tables that you need to read in depth and then extract evidence from, that was an ongoing problem for us. So I think that the sort of seed change that happened with the advent of large language models was that extraction really came within the bounds of, well, now reality, right? So we always had this vision of assistance in areas where we knew that machine learning technology could be useful. But I think that without something like GPT-4, I don't think we could do that full,
Okay.
Extracting from full text is a hard problem. And without these sort of advanced tools, I don't think that we would have been able to take it on.
Okay, that makes enough sense to me. I don't want to go too far into this, but because part of this presentation is about, well, there's two parts to it, isn't there? One is the platform, one is the living document, the idea that anyone can access this, up-to-date information and so on. And that's been a trend over recent years, and there's various ways in which to do it and various degrees of effectiveness. The AI is a step change in terms of managing that. Evelyn, I'm going to ask you also, just on being a bit, whatever the word is, I think I'm right in saying you said you've been using AI for 3 years for your clients. Again, same basic question. What were you doing more than 18 months ago, which you used AI for? Just give us a sense again of what sort of tools you were using and whether there was a step change 18 months ago or whether I'm missing the point.
Well, probably 3 years ago, I was still working clinically, so I wasn't focused on the evidence gathering, evidence writing as much as I am now. So up until that, the decade prior to that, I was working clinically. So directly with patients. While I did do some abstracts and stuff, it was not, I wasn't writing full time.
Okay. I was just trying to understand what the tools were you were using, but okay. And again, and some of the questions are coming in on this one from the audience. Can we do, I don't know who the best person to talk to is, maybe Steve, you can say a few words, distinguish between the use of AI that I'm interested in, rather than the use of a platform to gather the information together in one place, which I can sort of put to one side and go, well, that should be happening. But how is AI affecting your ability to do what you need to do? And there's the gathering stage and the research stage, and there's the writing of stuff stage. And a number of people have come in and said, what I'm interested in is how does the AI tool, and again, we're using the AI tool to mean all sorts of things, AI is going to help me write or edit or something like that. Steve, can you just talk from your position, your experience of that? How is AI affecting that aspect of work?
The easy question then, Peter, yeah?
Yeah.
It's we've got the guidance now that's come from the Healthcare Communications Agency and ISMAP, and they're saying there are a number of factors that need to be in place. You need the kind of buy-in from the organisation. You need the ability. Obviously, you need the knowledge to be able to do this and write the right prompts and in the right way. And you need the tools themselves. So there are a number of tools out there. There's Microsoft Copilot, which everybody is got integrated in Office 365 now. And there are examples on LinkedIn, for example, of how you can write a presentation using AI. And so I'd implore people to look at those, really, to sort of see there are things you can do. You can write. You can use AI for researching a new therapy area you want to pitch into, you can use AI to write your emails to clients. Number of ways that people are already using it. And there are different tools out there and different platforms out there that you can look at. And if you have search on LinkedIn, that's going to be the best. There's lots of things on LinkedIn learning about, you know, the AI tools that are there and how, if you want to write a 5-slide presentation, for example, you can use AI and AI prompts to do that. And there are a number of free courses from the likes of, you know, Harvard and you know, various institutions around the world that can show you where that, you know, what the best way of doing that would be. There isn't a single answer to the question.
Okay. Amanda, I'm going to ask a blunt question of you. In a company like yours, I've no idea what what happened before AI and before you got excited about what we're talking about today and all the rest of it. Blunt question. You're talking excitably about the ability of your team to gather content, researching and so on, and to write and develop content. And I just wonder very bluntly whether that affects the dynamics of how you work with agencies and suppliers and so on. Have you a history of putting all that work out to other people and paying for that? Are you bringing it in-house? Or have you always done it in-house, and are you just slashing the time and cost of doing it in-house? Do you see what I'm getting at?
I do. So I would say that we did not use an agency before for the newsletters, which is the use case that I am showing, though we could have. I will say that I explained I've been an agency before. I value agency as my strategic partners. So that's never going to change. I'm not going to use AI to inform the intellectual understanding of the strategy I want to use for my publication planning, but I am going to use it for scientific communication platforms for the nitty-gritty of getting through the literature and understanding where I can find citations to support the communication points I'm going to put forth. But when I align on the language of those communication points, I might use the AI to generate a draft, but we're going to refine it with the human brain. So I still see a value in my agency partners. I don't think my use of AI is going to trump that use of my agency partners. Another example would be, I need a landscape analysis maybe to start our publication plan. I can use AI to do that. Yes, I could do that myself. I'm still going to use my agency partner because they're going to refine the landscape into a set of slides that I can present at my meeting. So I don't see it. I really am not afraid of AI taking anyone's job. I just feel like we're going to be able to spend more time thinking things through with using those human powers. And so I'm excited. That's what excites me the most about it.
Okay, but to be blunt, the message that's coming through to me is that we, anybody can lose a lot of the grunt work by using AI. And depending on who you're working with and what your method of working is and your working practices, that might be taking work away from somebody. Yeah. And it might be an agency or it might be your internal staff. I mean, you're talking about the strategic input, the creative input. There's lots of reasons why AI is a tool, but it does shift the working patterns and practices and potentially quite seriously, doesn't it?
I can see why you would say that, Peter, but I think there's a gap in there where time is spent doing this grunt work and not enough time is spent on strategy. So I feel like for example, here's a good example. So we get, everyone's done this with a publication. You get a publication, you send it to 20 reviewers, internal people and the authors. You get back comments, you synthesize the comments. You have lost the communication points because you have input all those. We are on such a tight time frame. The journal has a submission date, the Congress has a submission date. There's not as much time. So what if AI could take all those comments and put them into a draft, and we aren't spending our time doing that? And then our job is to review that draft and decide, how is our communication point still in there? How are we doing with that? So I frankly don't see the loss of jobs in that way. I honestly can see more because we're going to need people who understand how to do this.
Okay, and so sorry, someone's going to, so I was just going to sort of clarify, but I'll let you insert. So basically what we're saying, I'm being a bit simplistic about this, okay? But I'm person A sitting here doing a chunk of work, and a chunk of that chunk is boring, grinding sort of work. What you're saying is, Peter, don't worry, you're just going to fill your 100% of time with more interesting work, and we'll get rid of the grindy stuff over there, which I accept up to a point. I still think it might have some impacts on some of the dynamics. Steve, go on.
it might have impact, but there's other ways. So another kind of buzzword, and has been a buzzword for many years, is omnichannel, and it's preferential, giving preferential content to people in the way that they value it most and that impacts them most. AI will give you more opportunity to develop more content in different ways at the same time, because by cutting the time it takes to deliver something, a single piece of content, you've got more time to deliver multiple pieces of content in different ways that suit the different personas and the different audiences that you're trying to reach. So as communication channels expand, and communications everywhere, you've got more time to reach the right people in the right way.
Okay, right. Let's draw a line on that particular part of the conversation. I'm very aware we've run out of time, so I'm going to try and throw a couple of things at you, which have come in from the questions. Okay, there's some questions coming in about copyright, for instance. I mean, it sounds very easy when Kevin, I think it was you that was talking. We go out and we put all this data in and we mash it all up and we do this. So a question came in almost immediately on, what about the copyright? Well, just deal with that one, and then I'll come back to my second question.
No, this is a great question, and I will note that if I could have perfect partnerships with journals, it would be for even easier access to full text. But everything that you bring into Nested Knowledge should be under subscriptions. So we are not a replacement for a journal subscription. You need to make sure that you have the rights to any full text that you bring in. We are, of course, only extracting exact excerpts from the underlying text in the same way that you would for any systematic review. So the copyright implications are just like with sharing in a SharePoint or in a Google Drive or in any sort of collaborative cloud environment. You do need to be careful about with whom you share the full text. And we separate the platform intentionally into that process. So those AI support tools, which should be available only to your team that should have those subscription access. And then this environment where you can share that with anyone. You can link share that, you can give access to that, mostly because we are not presenting any of the copyrighted data directly there. We're presenting only abstracts and excerpts.
Okay, and there's a huge discussion in there about what you let AI access and how you control it and the guardrails and all the rest of it. Let's leave that one slightly to one side. Another huge discussion, which we won't get very far into, but it's come in with several questions. How do you verify the data? A certain amount of this discussion is becoming quite glib about, well, the machine does this and it gives all this information and we do something with it. And a lot of people in our business worry about, well, how do we check the validity of that data and what's really involved? Because we tend to be a bit like paying lip service. Well, of course, the human's still involved. That's part of the point, and they'll QC it. But I sometimes, and today I haven't really got a full sense of, how much is involved in QCing and checking and validating and so on, and how confident are we in this data that's put in front of us on a dashboard? I don't know, maybe Kevin, you can talk from your point of view, and maybe Amanda from your point of view.
So we think very much in terms of again, AI recommends and then human confirms. This is part of what we'd consider to be our 3 core AI principles on the development side. The first one being that we think that human oversight of every step. So at the search stage, you decide the final terms that come in. At the screening stage, you decide the final articles in an adjudication process. And then you can review every single AI tag. The other 2 in brief are provenance. So we need to make sure that any AI recommendation, we're tracing it all the way to the source material and we're completely transparent with that. And then the last one is methodological transparency. So being able to say, how does this model work? How accurate is it if there are validation statistics, as with the cross-validation I presented on screening, and making that available to users. So transparency on both methods and accuracy. So oversight, provenance, and transparency, I think really make it so that any AI tool that is not going all the way, and I saw this in the chat, going all the way to basically replacing the creative and interpretive parts of the process, but is instead helping with the actual work of extracting and the tasks to get you there, that we feel is a lot more, well, let's say it's lower risk of altering our understanding of the underlying concepts here, and is much more focused on getting the evidence.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry, I'm going to truncate this conversation, but Amanda, I'd like to have a final word from you on that point, because at the end of the day, it's really important to you, however you get this content, whoever's involved, that you can absolutely be assured of the accuracy and the validity and all the rest of it. So how big a question mark is that for you?
So for our purposes, we refine the Boolean search until the load isn't that heavy, and we do a dual screen, which I think Kevin said. So we screen, a human screens and AI assists with the screening. So there's a checkpoint there of us looking to use our brains to say, is this valid data? Does this make sense that we do that level of screen?
Do we worry, anybody, about the fact that human beings are great at talking about this sort of stuff and how important the human being is, but we also have a tendency to accept what the computer says without thinking about it, because it's a lot quicker and easier? I mean, just as a final comment, does anybody want to pitch in and either agree or disagree with me? Anybody? Kevin, put your hand. Oh, go on, Andy, go on.
You're misusing the software if you do that, though. You're not using it accurately.
But is that not what humans do all the time? Kevin, do you want to say something?
I think that you can have guardrails on what AI is going to offer in the software. And we do try to offer guardrails on ensuring that you follow the proper scientific processes. I think in the end, there's no way to babysit someone's understanding or their input into the software or into just a review generally. But I think setting it up so that it is easy to give input without, of course, just like closing your eyes and clicking accept. I think that that's the important thing, because if there's not sort of that easy access to data, easy access to those AI recommendations, I think that you would probably default to just, okay, I'm just going to close my eyes and say that the AI is right on all of these extractions or screenings.
Yeah, because it's easy and I want to get home and do something else.
Exactly.
Okay, look, slightly flippant end of that. So we are a little bit over time. I just feel there's so much more we could talk about here and so many different areas we could have gone down. So I hope we've given some people some food for thought. I know I can speak for you and say they can contact you via LinkedIn if they want to follow up. So thank you very much for agreeing to that. But for today, I'm going to hold the I'll stop recording there. I should say anybody can contact me about anything, obviously all the time, medcomsnetworking.com. But I'd like to say a huge thank you and just ask everyone to give us a bit of a wave as we stop the recording. Take care, everyone. Bye.